So as
Yeah. Good morning,
Okay,
good
we'll go on
afternoon,
mute.
good evening.
so Vanita, as I said, she thought it's 8:30. We'll join now.
Yeah, go ahead, Srinivas. Let's get started.
Okay, so today we have 4 birthday people. We have Span, Geeta, Gautam, and Tanku, who have March as their birthday. So
Great.
I think one by one they can speak.
Happy birthday to all of you.
Happy birthday to
Happy
all of you.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, guys.
Thank you guys. Thank
Okay,
you.
Gautam, you can start.
Yeah, Gautam, say something.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to be here and birthday celebrations. Thanks so much.
Tanku.
Yeah, thank you so much. And guys, I've always believed there's no harm in having 2 birthdays. Never too much of a good thing. So this is my first birthday in this year, and I'll celebrate my second birthday in September. So thank
That's
you
the
very
real
much.
birthday. So actually, Yanks, I think we should knock out this birthday because I wish Tanku in September. Is that right, Tanku?
That's correct. But why should you knock this one out? I mean, it gives me 2 birthdays.
Your privilege, right? It's your privilege.
But I want to say one thing. Having reached this ripe age now or whatever, I find that these are the golden years that we have. I mean, we can chill. We don't have any much of a responsibility except for some, grandparenting. But time to enjoy, guys.
Yeah, and welcome back from your sabbatical.
Thank you.
From the book club.
Long one.
I thought
Which is not to say, Tanku, that we not enjoyed the first 70 or 69. Yeah.
Geeta?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Geeta.
Geeta, say a few words
Okay.
on your birthday.
Thank you for the birthday wishes. Yeah, I turned 65 officially on the 11th of March, and thank you very much. Several of you had wished me on Facebook and otherwise. And thank you very much for saying. I just wanted to introduce a new topic to you, and that is acupuncture. I've become an acupuncture therapist after my retirement from TCS.
Oh,
wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
Very good.
So I'm a practicing therapist now. I want to introduce the topic and tell you that, if you want to avoid taking medicines or pills, then acupuncture is something that you can look at. It cures almost all types of diseases and is very effective for pains. Okay, so with this, I'll close because this is a topic that I'm fascinated about, and I can go on and on, but I will stop now. And
thank
I
you.
hope I hope you know that Ravi Shankar also has this hobby, acupuncture.
They are both in touch always.
Yeah.
Geeta is more than a hobby. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's a postdoctoral or something in acupuncture.
I've done an MD in acupuncture as well as a PhD in acupuncture.
Wow.
Not postdoctoral, still pending.
I will come to you, Geeta, because I used to go to an acupuncturist and it was wonderful.
Oh, most welcome. For any of you,
So,
okay,
do you do
Span
online?
I think Span is not come today. I think he said he'll be joining.
Yeah, he might join a little later, maybe.
Okay, if he joins, then maybe we'll give him a sentence or 2 later. Okay, thank you all and happy birthday.
Thank
you. And now we'll get into.
Can I just say one thing here?
Sure.
Ravi is not so much acupuncture as acupressure.
Okay.
Which is 2 completely different things, but very synergistic. And I've been a patient with Ravi and his mentor. She's called Jijaji. She's based in Bangalore, and they've actually helped me with my goutish arthritis over the last 2 years.
Wow.
I used to suffer enormously, be immobile for 7 days, couldn't move my feet, etc. And they've helped me, completely overcome that. So look forward to talk to you, Geeta, because you will probably add another dimension to that.
Most welcome.
Okay.
Actually, Ravi always carries needles in his pocket. He does acupressure, but he also does mini needling.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I've been an acupuncture, needling. It's called internal muscle stimulation, long needling. I've been doing it for 20 years plus.
Right.
Back and it cures everything. I've had
And he's very devoted also.
C4. It's brilliant.
Okay, guys, I think there's too much of pressure building up before we get into so let's move on. We'll come back to this acupuncture and all the punctures and others. It's a dangerous
All
topic.
pressures and punctures.
Okay, now move on to Agatha Christie's world.
Lovely. Very good review of Hercule Poirot. So before we go to our guest speaker, Dr. Tambe, I just want to say a few words about him. He retired as a professor of physics, but even today, he's a young at heart person at 82 years of age. He really enjoys being with younger people like all of us. So he's feeling
That's a good one.
Yeah, feeling quite disappointed that he cannot be here because he's down with pneumonia and has been hospitalized, but fortunately getting better. So he won't be here today, but his recorded interview, I think, more than makes up for his absence, as you might agree. So let's move on.
Let me just say at the outset that Dr. Bharat Ambe is a very close family friend of ours here in Atlanta. And you all might remember his daughter Janaki had appeared in our book club several months ago. And in conversation with him, he is really an intellectual force as a retired physics professor. I realized that he is also a fan of Agatha Christie. Not only has he read her books in the past, growing up, but also currently reads once in a while, and also sometimes reads her books twice over. So I thought we would all benefit from his perspective on Agatha Christie, on her writing, and what reading her books has meant to him, and perhaps how she compares as the leader of this genre with other contributors to the murder mystery regime. So with that, I'll hand it over to Professor Tambe, and let's listen to him.
Hello, good morning. At least it's morning here. I understand that when this appears in your Zoom session, excuse me, it's going to be evening. So anyway, whatever. Now, how did I come to Agatha Christie? Well, for one thing, we didn't have a choice in the old days. When I was a kid growing up in India, my father was employed by the Madhya Pradesh government. He was a civil engineer. He used to get transferred from place to place, mostly in district towns. So we used to live in these small towns where we didn't have access to too much entertainment. Yeah. Now, people of your generation will find it hard to believe. We really couldn't go to movies because a small town would have maybe a couple of movie theaters. And these movie theaters were really not very good places. They had tin roofs. And since Madhya Pradesh is since the temperatures are very high, then inside the theater it used to be very hot. And although smoking was supposed to be prohibited, nobody paid any attention to it. So the whole theater was filled with smoke. So it was very rarely that we went to movies. Mm-hmm. Even radio, the only radio we had access to, it was an AM station in Nagpur, run by All India Radio. Mm-hmm. And the reception used to be so poor that listening to it for entertainment was out of the question. So that left only one thing to entertain ourselves, and that is books. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I have to thank the British for this. Some of the ideas, some of the things they had in England, they had created in these district places. In the sense, each district place had a wonderful municipal library. And I took full advantage of it. I and a friend of mine, especially in summer vacation, in the evening, we would walk to the local library, return the books that we had borrowed on the previous day, and exchange them. The librarians sort of knew us, and they would recommend books to us. So I developed a reading habit very early. Now, I don't know how many of you have read different mysteries. There was, of course, Arthur Conan Doyle, with his Sherlock Holmes stories. There was Earl Stanley Garner. But of all these people, Agatha Christie was one of the most prolific producers of mystery stories. She wrote mysteries in all forms. I think she has written about 80 books. Sold about 2 billion copies.
Wow.
It is said that the only books that sold more than what she did was the Bible and Shakespeare. She sold more than anybody else. One reason was, of course, the number of books that she wrote. She also wrote some plays. And I don't know if you are aware, but one of the plays she wrote has the distinction of being the longest running stage play in London. It ran for a really long time. You can Google it and see how many years. But it was like 30, 40, 50 years every night. The play was called Mousetrap. I haven't seen the play. Another of her short stories was converted into a play and a movie, actually. That was called Witness for the Prosecution.
Oh, yeah.
It was a major hit. And I remember having seen it when I was in college somewhere. So basically, you couldn't really miss her. They were her plays, they were her mysteries, they were her movies. So she provided entertainment in all forms. Then my son started getting me Agatha Christie books on the Kindle, and that's where I suddenly realized how much I liked it and what it meant to me.
Wow.
Especially in February 2023, my wife died. I was still in the facility. It was a 2-bedroom. I was planning to move to Atlanta, but my daughter was her apartment, her house ready for me. So I could move to June. So from February to June, I was dealing with the loss of my wife. And my son saw this, and he started getting Agatha Christie books one after another.
Wow.
And he would at a time get like 3 or 4 books. And he would tell me, when you are done, let me know, I'll get some more.
That's great.
And I read them all the time. I suddenly realized what it meant for me. I read it all the time. It helped me get over my grief to some extent. Also, it was a nice memory of my wife. This was something we had done together. And I realized that she had become a part of us. Agatha Christie had become a part of me.
Wow.
Now, a word about Agatha Christie. Of course, she has 2 famous detectives. She also tried to create some other characters. One was a husband and wife pair, Tommy and Tuppence. And then one was a pair of couple of Scotland Yard detectives. But I don't think she liked the result too much, so she abandoned it quite quickly. She also wrote some books where there is no detective. For example, one of her most famous mysteries was "And Then There Were None." That was not the original title of the book. And that's a story by itself. When Agatha Christie started writing, it was about 1910, I think. That was a time when the British Empire was at its peak. Absolutely. And British, the people in Britain, they had confidence, you might say arrogance, that comes from being totally in control. They didn't think they had to do anything to make people of color happy, so to say. And so the original title of that book was 10 Little, the infamous N-word, and nobody thought much of it. But then finally, when that book was so popular, they kept it kept going through many printings. Her British publisher suggested that the title needs to be changed. So then the title became 10 Little Indians.
Oh.
And it was such a hit. Her British publisher, her American publisher, they wanted to publish it in the US, and they told that that is not a title that would be acceptable in US. So that is how the world was changing. For the first time, British people, Europeans, started paying attention to the fact that people of color did have brains and did have feelings. So the title was changed to "And Then There Was None." It was made into a Hollywood movie. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It may be available somewhere if you look for it. It's an interesting movie. Although in the Hollywood version, they have changed the end a little bit. Because as the book stands, it was thought that the end won't be acceptable to most audiences. So as the title says, everybody is killed in that book. In the Hollywood version, I think there are 2 people who survive, and the 2 people are, of course, the hero and heroine.
I see.
The heroine gets into trouble and the hero saves her, that sort of thing. So a romantic angle.
Right.
Believe it or not, it was also made in India into a Hindi movie. The name of the Hindi movie is Gumnaam.
Wonderful listening to you and to all the memories associated with your long time reading of Agatha Christie. If you can make it on the 14th for the meeting, that will be great.
So you will send me the link, right?
Yes, I will send you the link.
Okay.
And we will, of course, share this conversation with all of my friends.
Yes.
But if you are there in person, that would sort of be the icing on the cake to have you with us at the book club. And thank you so much for engaging in this conversation and reminiscing about Agatha Christie. I'm sure all of us would take away a lot from your thoughts and your association.
That's very kind of you.
Okay.
That was a bit of history as we get into Agatha Christie and her writings. Now we move on to the reader of the month. As you can tell from the publicity for this session, Anu, as the reader of the month, has been very creative in many different ways. The choice of murder mystery as a theme, recommendations of selected books, and last but not the least, the writing and directing of a little murder mystery for today's session. So before we go there, let's listen to her overview of the theme and the books, and then we'll have a couple of reflections from Anjali and Ken. So with that, I'll hand it over to Anu for her overview.
Thanks, Milind. So first, I want to say thank you to all of you because you voted in Christie, and so I had the opportunity to reread a couple of her mysteries for this session, and it was awesome. I wonder how your perspective changed on reading her for the second time. It brought back so many pleasant memories from childhood, and that was a long time ago. Second, I also want to say I'm just acting as a setup for Kenny and Anjali because I'm just giving a review of the books because they both have really interesting things to say. So I'm just setting up for them. Okay. So let me just get started with the synopsis of both books, right? The ABC Murders, I think most of you read, and The Moving Finger, if you had the chance. It was not a hard book to read. So the ABC Murders was published in 1936, and it's one of Christie's most ingenious works, featuring, of course, Hercule Poirot. Unlike most murder mysteries, where the central question is who committed the crime, Christie brilliantly inverts this formula, presenting readers with what appears to be a straightforward serial killer case, but ultimately reveals a complex plot of misdirection and calculated deception. The premise. The novel begins with Hercule Poirot receiving a taunting letter signed ABC announcing an upcoming murder in Andover. When Alice Asher, an elderly shopkeeper, is indeed murdered in Andover with an ABC railway guide left beside her body, Poirot realizes he's dealing with a serious threat. Soon after, Betty Barnard is killed in Bexhill and Sir Carmichael Clark in Churston, each murder following the alphabetical pattern, each victim's name starting with the same letter as the town, and each crime scene marked by the presence of an ABC railway guide. The investigation. As the murders progress, Poirot assembles an unusual legion of individuals connected to the victims to assist in the investigation. This includes Inspector Japp of Scotland Yard, the assertive Megan Barnard, Betty's sister, Franklin Clark, Sir Carmichael's brother, Mary Doer, Alice Asher's niece, and Donald Fraser, Betty's jealous boyfriend. Poirot pursues what appears to be an alphabetical serial killer, a seemingly deranged individual following a peculiar pattern. The public hysteria grows with each murder, and the police frantically search for someone whose surname begins with the letters ABC. Their attention eventually turns to Alexander Bonaparte Cust, a mentally unstable traveling stocking salesman suffering from blackouts and headaches from a war injury. Next page. What makes the ABC Murders particularly remarkable is Christie's masterful subversion of the serial killer trope. As Cust is found with incriminating evidence and even believes himself guilty, the case seems to be solved. However, Poirot's little gray cells have detected inconsistencies that reveal a stunning truth. The alphabetical murders are an elaborate smokescreen. The true culprit is Franklin Clark, who only wanted to murder his brother Carmichael in order to inherit his wealth. To conceal his motive, he devised the ABC murder scheme, killing two random victims whose name fit the alphabetical pattern before murdering his actual target. He then framed the mentally vulnerable Cust by manipulating him through employment, sending him to the murder locations, and planting evidence. The resolution. Poirot dramatically exposes Franklin Clark by revealing the psychological inconsistencies in the supposed serial killings. Clark had inadvertently revealed his guilt by showing too much interest in the investigation and suggesting the formation of the Legion in order to stay close to the investigation. In the end, Cust is exonerated, and the true murderer is brought to justice. And Poirot once again demonstrates his exceptional understanding of human psychology and criminal motivation. The ABC Murders represents Christie at her innovative best, playing with the emergent psychological understanding of serial killers in the 1930s, while simultaneously subverting those same concepts. The novel introduces the idea of reverse psychology in detective fiction, where the most obvious solution becomes a deliberate misdirection. The book also showcases Christie's narrative versatility, alternating between third-person accounts and Captain Hastings' first-person narration, allowing readers both an intimate connection with the investigation and broader perspectives on the events. So now to the second book, The Moving Finger. It was published in 1942, and it's considered one of Christie's most atmospheric and psychologically astute mysteries. Unlike many of her other works that feature professional detectives right from the outset, this novel employs a unique narrative approach through the eyes of an outsider to the village where malice brews beneath a veneer of respectability. The title itself, drawn from Edward Fitzgerald's translation of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, the moving finger writes and having writ moves on, perfectly encapsulates the novel's themes of irreversible actions and their consequences. The premise, the story begins when Jerry Burton, a pilot recovering from a serious crash, and his sister Joanna move to an idyllic English village of Limestock for what they expect to be a peaceful convalescence. Their hopes for tranquility are quickly shattered when they receive an anonymous poison pen letter containing false accusations. They soon discover that these malicious letters have been circulating throughout the village for weeks, spreading vicious rumors and destroying reputations. The situation escalates dramatically when Mrs. Symington, the wife of the local solicitor, commits suicide after receiving a letter suggesting that her second child was illegitimate. Shortly afterwards, the Symington's maid, Agnes Wardell, is also found murdered, presumably because she knew something about the letter writer's identity. The investigation. As the village reels from these events, Miss Marple makes her appearance, though in a subtler role than in many of her other novels. Invited by the vicar's wife to help solve this mystery. Miss Marple remains in the background, observing and analyzing, while Jerry unwittingly serves as her eyes and ears within the community. Jerry increasingly becomes invested in the investigation as he develops feelings for Megan Hunter, Mr. Symington's awkward, neglected stepdaughter. Next page. Okay. The investigation continued. Joanna, the sister of Jerry, pursues a relationship with not only the Mr. Symington's attractive young assistant, but also the attentions of the local doctor. As the investigation progresses, suspicion falls on various villagers and the governess who might have been in love with a doctor with a troubled past, even Megan herself, who had a difficult relationship with her stepfather. The police focus on finding someone with access to a typewriter matching the one used for poison pen letters. The twist. Christie's genius manifests in how she subverts the reader's expectations about both the murderer's identity and motivation. The key revelation comes when Miss Marple, through careful observation rather than active investigation, recognizes that the suicide was actually a cleverly disguised murder. The true culprit is revealed to be Mr. Symington himself, who murdered his wife to pursue a relationship with the children's governess, Miss Elsie Holland. He sent the anonymous letters to various villagers to establish a pattern, making his wife's so-called suicide appear to be just another victim of the poison pen campaign. He then murdered the maid Agnes because he suspects that she had seen him with the letter he planted near the wife's body. The resolution, Miss Marple explains that her suspicions were aroused because the letter Mrs. Symington supposedly received contained an accusation that would have been meaningless to her, suggesting her second child was illegitimate when she knew perfectly well it wasn't. A genuine poison pen writer would have chosen a more plausible accusation. The solution emerges not from fingerprints or dramatic confessions, but from the recognition that the truest clues to murder lie in the discrepancies between how people actually behave and how they would behave if their stated motives were genuine. Thank you.
Thank you
Now
very
on to
much,
the interesting stuff.
That was really very meaningful, especially because of the two different styles of Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple, the way they find out who the murderer is. So thank you for that very interesting overview. And we leave for people to read these 10 characteristics of Agatha Christie. But now let's turn to the first reflection, and Anjali is going to provide it first, and then Kenny follows. They both are really energetic reader reflectors. Anjali will reflect now, so let me just say that her energy is exhibited in the reading of both the required and the recommended reading, ABC Murders as well as The Moving Finger. So let's listen to her comparison between the two books and her reflections on having read both of them. Go ahead, Anjali.
Are you putting up? Thanks. Are you putting up? Thank you, Anu, for making Murder Mysteries by Agatha Christie the centerpiece of this month's book club session. When Anu asked me to chat about the detectives that Agatha Christie created, I was excited as Agatha Christie has been a favorite of mine from childhood. I've read all her books and I read them all again during COVID. I have many books downloaded and most of the physical copies as well. The first book authored by her that I read was A Murder is Announced. I must have been about 11 years old. That remains a nostalgic read that I turn to when in need of a relaxing hour. A Murder is Announced is where I first came across Agatha Christie's beloved detective, Miss Marple. Miss Marple uses her knowledge of human nature, drawn from keen observations of village life, to identify in this book the murderer of Rudy Schurz. Villagers gather at the home of Letita Blacklock in the village of Chipping Clayton, intrigued by a notice in the local newspaper about a murder that will take place. Everyone thinks it's a game, but when the clock strikes, the lights go out, shots are fired, and a stranger, Rudy, is found dead. Miss Marple's understanding of human nature, which she derives from characters and events in village life, helps her piece together the jigsaw of clues into a meaningful picture. This reveal of human nature is what I love. As while Miss Marple says it's about villagers, it actually represents tangled human relationships, secrets, greed, deception, the facades people put up, and murky motivations. This understanding of people is what distinguishes Miss Marple as a detective, shown in my other two favorites, The Murder at the Vicarage and The Body in the Library. Miss Marple is an elderly lady who likes to knit, usually enveloped in pink and white wool, twitters when she speaks, is old-fashioned but is astute and courageous. This courage is reflected in The Moving Finger, where she confronts the murderer and saves the victim. Agatha Christie's ability to build different characters is illustrated in the persons of her other detective, Hercule Poirot, a small, meticulous Belgian with an egg-shaped head and mustaches that are his pride and joy. The pictures that Yangs had selected actually show this very well. Hercule isn't lovable like Miss Marple. He's a bit pompous, and his vanity, use of his little grey cells, and obsession with order make him somewhat easy to laugh at. While Miss Marple is pink and white, Porio's green eyes are often mentioned. His partner, Captain Hastings, who usually figures in his books as the narrator, reminds me of the Sherlock Holmes and Watson partnership. Porio focuses on psychological insights and understanding the human mind, contrasted with traditional methods of collecting physical evidence. My favorite stories are The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, Murder on the Orient Express, and Death on the Nile. As a fan of Agatha Christie, I had to mention another lovable pair of detectives, even though Anu didn't ask me to. These are Tommy and Tuppence Beresford, friends who become life partners at the end of the first book in the series. Tommy is tall, resourceful, somewhat stolid, the practical complement to Tuppence, who combines impulsiveness and imagination and is slim, stylish, and vivacious. This is one pair where Agatha Christie shows that she understands youthful partnerships. The daring approach that this dynamic duo adopts leads to many heart-stopping adventures while they unravel geopolitical crimes. My favorite is the first book, The Secret Adversary. Agatha Christie has been able to create several detectives with different styles and approaches who can all delve into the human psyche and underlying motivations. Thanks, Anu, again, for bringing this to us.
Thank you so much, Anjali. Lovely comparison between the two books that you read so diligently. And I'm curious, Tommy and Tuppence, did she write a lot of books where they were the investigators?
Sorry, what did you say?
I said Tommy and Tuppence that
Yes.
you mentioned.
I think there were 4 books.
At least 4 or 5. Yeah.
There were 4 million. Yeah.
Right.
But you can Google that. Yeah, you don't need to ask.
There's a whole series, 17.
There are 4 of them.
I didn't know that they were prominent in her writing. Okay, very good. So our next reflection comes from Kenny, and his vigor and innovation is evident to me in his preparedness to reflect extempore for the first time in today's session. So let's listen to his thoughts on the book and the murder mysteries that Agatha Christie wrote. Go ahead, Kenny.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? I was having some difficulty with my Zoom on the laptop, but am I audible? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So it's not really extempore because actually I had to write it down, because it's difficult to speak extempore. There are too many things involved in this review. So I'll just say that I've been reading Agatha Christie ever since I can remember. My mother always had one on a mantelpiece, above her bed, which she would read in the afternoons before a nap. The only time she enjoyed a bit of peace and quiet, being the mother of 8 kids, she would have a nap and before sleep after reading a bit of Agatha Christie. I never bought one myself because if I had a choice, I would always buy Biggles or Bunter or William, So coming across an unread Agatha Christie was like winning a lottery. Later in life, we discovered the joys of Agatha Christie's books brought to life on the large screen, most of them with the all-star casts. The latest movie I saw was, in fact, a psychodrama remake of the ABC Murders with John Malkovich as Poirot. Though I read the book before, I hadn't appreciated the nuances of psychology in it until I actually saw that movie, because it was made in that way. So reading the book again was an absolute pleasure. Something like 10 years after I saw the movie. Once I started reading, the structure of the plot came back. So I ended up really focusing on the language and the finer, almost literary aspects of a writing. When you read a detective novel and you know the ending, you know how it goes, then you kind of lose interest, you rush through it, and in this case, since we were doing a review, I thought, let me focus on her language and, the literary aspects. So then I even, in a point of accuracy, I looked up all the towns she mentioned on Google Maps in order to better understand what was happening. In those days, we had an atlas, we had to physically open it and, check, go to England, go to some county and find out, use the glossary or something. And, but now I could see it on Google Maps. So that makes the interest so much more live. Now, Moving Figure was a brilliant choice by Anu, I have to say. I do not recall seeing it before, so I enjoyed it immensely without having a clue how the story would develop or how it would end. The reader is kept in suspense like a puppet on a string to the very end. any one of you who was reading it for the first time would have felt that, I mean, very much. Now, the characters, there's so many characters in that book, but, and, it's all brought out through dialogue. There's not much, a little bit of description, but, it's all tangential description. But the characters of Jerry, Joanna, and Megan, or Megan, I think it's Megan, are brilliantly fleshed out. As of course, and by the end, one is truly enamored of them. I don't know, I kind of almost fell in love with all three of these characters. Not Jerry so much, but definitely Joanna and Megan. Agatha Christie is somehow able to convey a sense of, she's a suspense writer, so she can convey the sense of foreboding, even in a very ordinary encounter or a dialogue with the inhabitants of Limstock, even before a single murder has occurred, But you still have this feeling of dread, something's going to happen, when is it going to happen, what's going to happen? And a command of dialogue is so effortless and natural that the differences of class and education of each character, as Professor Tambi mentioned, in the 1920s or 1930s, Britain was very much a classist or a class-ridden society. And, her speech, her dialogues reflected that very clearly in the rhythms of the speech as well as the vocabulary. I mean, it's what I would imagine. I've never lived there, I don't know, but what I would imagine, it came out very clearly. This novel also reminds me, as everyone has remarked so far, of suspense and adventure novels. Not so much mystery, but a lot of adventure and suspense, like The Man in the Brown Suit, and the series of books featuring, as we just discussed, Tommy and Tuppence Beresford. The best of them, to my mind, was N or M. To quote a review of one of the books, Miss Christie has a clever prattling style that shifts easily into amusing dialogue and so aids the pleasure of the reader as he tears along with Tommy and Tuppence on the trail of the mysterious Mr. Brown. Many of the situations are a bit moth-eaten from frequent usage by other writers, but at that, Miss Christie manages to invest them with a new sense of individuality that renders them rather absorbing. So some examples I just quote of AC's subtle style. She's this scene in Moving Finger. In the ABC Murders, they go into a grocery shop, and after something happens and they have some discussion, then Hastings comes and says, "Couldn't you have simply asked without all that tissue of lies?" "No, mon ami. If I had simply asked, as you put it, I should have got no answer at all to my questions. You yourself are English, and yet you do not seem to appreciate the quality of the English reaction to a direct question. It is invariably one of suspicion, and the natural result is reticence." Poirot knows so much about the British people that Hastings himself doesn't understand, And he also said, "Is it that he's quite abusive, quite insulting to Hastings sometimes. Is it that you have not in any degree the common sense, Hastings? I say to you, make a purchase quelconque, and you deliberately choose the strawberries. Already they commence to creep through their bag and endanger your good suit." With some dismay, I perceived that this was indeed the case. I hastily presented the strawberries to a small boy who seemed highly astonished and faintly suspicious. Poirot added the lettuce, thus setting the seal on the child's bewilderment. My first impression, this is another quote. My first impression was of the Dutch dolls that my sister used to play with. This is a quote from the book. Used to play with in my childhood. Her hair was black and cut in a straight bob and a bang across the forehead. Her cheekbones were high and her whole figure had a queer modern angularity that was not somehow unattractive. Talking about Miss Holland. Then he says at one stage, during the investigations, he gets a bit fed up. Conferences, much of my memory of the ABC case seems to be of conferences. Conferences at Scotland Yard, at Poirot's rooms, official conferences, unofficial conferences, etc. This is Hastings. Then again, Poirot, you have no sense of proportion, Hastings. We cannot catch a train earlier than the time that it leaves. And to ruin one's clothes will not be the least helpful in preventing a murder. Do I still have time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So again, to quote Poirot, he says, "A sensible man, my force, Hastings, is in my brain and not in my feet. All the time whilst I seem to you idle, I'm reflecting." And there's another, so she describes this I mean, there's a conversation between Poirot and Hastings, you know, and he's talking about this character. She really is a lovely girl, I said, Hastings says, and wears very lovely clothes. That crepe Moroccan and the silver fox collar, Dania Cree, you know, means really the top fashion, the latest. Poirot, I mean, this is Poirot saying, and Hastings said, "You're a man milliner, Poirot. I never notice what people have on." This is Hastings. Poirot says, "You should join a nudist colony." So anyway, that's it. I don't have anything more to add. And please, one of the drawbacks in discussing detective novels is that one tends to give the plot away, which then ruins the fun for other people who have not read it. So please go ahead and read these books and many others. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Kenny, you should see the chat. You were really brilliant. This idea of you just talking from your notes worked out so well. So thank you for that very, very thorough reflection. Very nice. So with that, we complete the reflections portion of this session.
Milan has come, so I think if he can show his face and then just say hi to us.
Sure. Go ahead, Spanny.
Oh, really? I have to show my face?
Yes.
Yeah,
want to see the birthday boy.
Say something on your birthday.
Yeah, but it's not his birthday today, by the way.
Hey, birthday
birthday is gone in January.
That's what we decided.
It's the
Man, you
birthday
need
month.
some backlighting, man.
I know. It's my, one sec, just give me a minute. I would basically put all the lights off.
Meantime, I need to tell you that Hassan Minaj is advertising the Kolkata Chai Company on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you for remembering me. My birthday was January 1st. 3rd January, and the digits got reversed in my school days when I was in grade 8. So anyway, that's how it's become 1st March. Thank you all the same.
Good to see you. Happy birthday.
Yeah, anyway, thank you. Very well said, Kenny, Anjali, and Anu. I'm seeing Anu after a long time. That's good. Thank you.
Like Abhay, I think you should be here regularly, Spanny.
I will come. Sure. It becomes a bit late for me. That's the only problem sometimes. You know, that's all.
Okay.
Because it's late for you guys too.
Hey, Dada. What late?
Trivi, how's your leg?
Yeah, it's only 11:30, man, on Friday night. It's okay.
I know. Tell me about it.
Gee.
I'm in New York now, so with my kids.
Yeah, Milan, we can continue.
Yeah. So
okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
So we now transit to the play, and so I should hand it over to Anu to describe the play for us without giving away anything, and then we enact the play. Go ahead, Anu.
Anu, you are on mute.
Srinivas, she'll need the slide.
Is there a hissing sound in the background?
Yeah. So,
Sounds like a shortwave radio.
Is it?
Srinivas, just project the slide for her for the theme of the play.
So it was supposedly written by me, but mostly by Claude for the play and ChatGPT for the images, Milind for most of the character names. Kenny chose his own name, and I chose the victim's name. So that's the background to the story. And so everyone, the request is that it is, we want you to put on your thinking hats and try to solve the mystery. Okay, so Anjali is our detective. Srinivas is going to act as Krishna, the librarian. Milind is Professor Dumbledore. And he's given me the name of Iron. And Kenny is Harry Potter, of course. And our victim, as you'll see, I'm going to set it up now. The scene is set up during a book club meeting at the local library after hours. Bara C, a wealthy publisher, has been found dead in the rare book room. He was poisoned, and a valuable first edition of The Murder on the Orient Express is missing. The four suspects, Krishna the librarian, Professor Dumbledore, the retired academic and a rare book collector, Ian, the mystery novelist, and Harry Potter, the aspiring novelist, are all present at the library that evening for a private book club meeting about Agatha Christie. Detective Raina has been called in to investigate. So now we go to scene 1, the discovery. Detective?
We keep this on the screen, Anu?
This is on the screen, that's fine. Anjali, go ahead.
No, we'll have it on our own screen.
No, each one has to open up their own parts. We don't want it on the screen.
Everybody in the audience. So you can take away the slide.
No, we can keep the slide on, Milind, please, because otherwise they won't know who and what.
So that we can remind ourselves what the text is. And I'm assuming that Detective Raina will now say some words.
Yes.
I think we all have some
Unmute.
Please
unmute.
Anu, we each have the script.
I think
approximately.
We don't need
please go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All the characters have an identification, so please, you can
please take the slide away. Otherwise, we won't see everybody.
Okay, Anu, you take the call. I think there is a debate going on. So, Anu, you use your call.
I'd like the slide to stay, please.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody who wants can minimize the slide a little by just, reducing the. You can on your screen. You can just shorten. You can just reduce the slide. There are not many people, so you can do it anyway. I'll just carry on. Bara C was found dead in the rare book room, in this room that you can all see, approximately 1 hour ago. The medical examiner believes he was poisoned. I'll be interviewing you to establish what happened. I understand you were all present for tonight's book club meeting focused on Agatha Christie's works, specifically her use of poison as the murder weapon of choice. How fitting and yet how tragic. I'll be relying on you, our virtual witnesses, to pay close attention to the details. Let's begin with Krishna, the librarian. Krishna, you discovered
the interviews.
Krishna, you discovered the body, I believe. Krishna?
Yeah, detective. See, what happened is the Bara wanted to go through the rare books, and around that time, Professor Dumbledore was giving an excellent exposition of the botanical poisons, which was very interesting. So instead of accompanying him, I gave the key to him to the rare book collection, and he proceeded. And then what happened was, I was after the book club session is over, I was rearranging the books and stuff like that, and it took a while. It was more than half an hour. Then I wondered, and then I went to the rare book room to check on Bara, and I found him slumped in the sofa near to the table, and there is a teacup, empty teacup near to him. And also what I noticed, detective, one of our prized possession, the Murder on the Orient Express, is missing from the bookshelf.
Did you for Mr. C?
No. Actually, tea is not served to anyone. We have a community teapot, and everyone was helping themselves. And I noticed that Bara didn't take tea during our book club session. So maybe he carried it with him when he went inside.
Did you have any reason to harm him?
No, look, detective, I have absolutely no reason to harm him. Of course, Bara is threatening to remove the grant to our library because he wanted the Rare Book Club collection one to be arranged to his exact specifications, which is not the way we do. But maybe he is upset about it, but then that is not the reason I would be doing anyhow.
Thank you, Krishna. Professor Dumbledore, you're a collector yourself, I understand.
Indeed, Detective. First editions are my passion, especially Christie's works. I came tonight specifically to discuss authentication methods for rare books. I noticed that the Orient Express, the first edition, earlier, and it's absolutely exquisite, worth at least £30,000, I'd estimate.
Oh, did you enter the rare book room tonight?
Briefly, yes. About 15 minutes before Krishna found the body, Bara invited me in to look at the collection. He was alive and well when I left, enjoying his tea. I offered to buy the Orient Express first edition for my collection last month, but the library board refused. Shame about Bara though. Between us, he outbid me on a rare Christie manuscript at Southfield last week. Most ungentlemanly behavior, I should say.
Well, Professor Dumbledore, we found the missing first edition of Orient Express in your briefcase. How can you explain that?
I have no idea how it got there. I placed my briefcase in the corner of this room when I came to the book club meeting, and I have not seen it since then.
And as a mystery writer yourself, what was your relationship with the victim?
Professional detective. Bara's publishing house rejected my latest manuscript last week, said it was derivative and predictable. The nerve. But I didn't kill him for it. I've had rejections before. I spent most of the evening discussing plotting techniques with young Harry Potter there. Now, I did see Bara briefly in the main reading room about 20 minutes before he was found. He seemed agitated.
Did you enter the rare book room at any point?
No, I had no reason to. Though I did notice that Professor Dumbledore leaving that room looking rather pleased with himself. I saw Krishna checking his watch several times, seemingly anxious about something.
And finally, Hari Putter, you're Krishna's nephew?
Yes, Detective. Uncle Krishna got me into the book club to help with my own writing. I'm working on a mystery novel, actually. I spent most of the evening taking notes on everyone's Christie analysis. Brilliant research for my book.
Did you interact with Mr. C tonight?
Briefly. He offered to look at my manuscript, actually. Said he was always looking for fresh talent. I was supposed to meet him in the rare book room after his viewing. But when I went there, Uncle Krishna was already screaming about finding his body. I should mention, I saw Anne coming out of the hallway that leads to the rare book room, despite what she just told you. She looked startled when she saw me.
That's absurd. I was in the reading room for the entire time.
Interesting. One final question for everyone. Did any of you notice anything unusual before Mr. C's death?
Yeah, Detective, now that you mentioned, I saw after the session is over, there is an animated argument between Bara and Professor Dumbledore.
Merely a scholarly disagreement about Christie's use of poison in her novel. Nothing serious.
I noticed something odd. The teapot we all use had been moved from the main table to the librarian's desk at some point. Krishna, was that your doing?
Ma'am, like I mentioned that I was clearing up the place after the book club session is over. So that is hardly suspicious move.
Detective, I found this in the hallway outside the rare book room. It looks like a love letter.
Oh, look at the letter. It says, "My dear Bara, I cannot live with our secret any longer. Meet me tonight, or I shall tell everyone the truth." It's unsigned, most interesting.
Scene 3, the revelation.
Okay. Now there's the revelation.
No, I think we have to wait for that. There will be a poll. So we are going to start a poll now. And each other member, I think, let me try it out. This is the first time we are attempting. So if there's any glitch, you bear with me.
Before I reveal the conclusion, I'd like our virtual detectives to consider what they've heard.
Yeah.
Who had motive, means, and opportunity? What clues stand out? Take a moment to form your theories. Any ideas? Any suggestions? Come on, guys, give me your ideas. Who do you think are the? We can now close the slide and let's see everybody.
Yeah.
Anne had motive. Her book was rejected by.
That's
Mr.
very
C.
interesting. That's very interesting. But anybody else who has any other ideas?
Krishna.
Dumbledore
Okay.
was doing forgery of rare books with Barasi. That's what the love letter was about. Couldn't tolerate it anymore and decided to kill him.
I think it's Krishna.
You think?
No, I change. I think it is Dumbledore, especially with the beard that he has on his face.
Very suspicious.
Definitely Dumbledore.
Who thinks it's Krishna?
I think it's Krishna because he first saw the body. He had some motive because he was not getting the grant, and plus he moved the teapot as well. So I think it's Krishna.
And his accomplice, Harry Potter.
Not Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Actually, they are in cahoots. Dumbledore, Harry Potter are in cahoots. They're from the same novel.
Nobody wants Harry Potter.
To kill.
Hari the Puttar.
Yeah, I think it is Hari the Puttar. And
why, Prabhu?
Because I think he was in love with Ayn, and Ayn, of course, was having an affair with Bara. So I think he just got rid of her and then put the book into the briefcase.
Fabulous. I think all these ideas are good. Anybody else?
I think Abdul has something to say.
Abdul, Abdul, go ahead.
I think the look of Ayn, you have the murderer's look right now. You're smiling.
Addressing Abdul, you're just saying you have the murderer's look, but whom are you addressing?
Ayn has the murderer's
whatever.
Oh, what about Vivi? I think he also wants to say something.
Yeah, it was Ayn. The letter, the rejection. So there's motive and there's evidence. I don't know about opportunity yet, but it'll
Hell
come out.
hath no fury like a woman rejected.
Yeah.
Only
because this is
okay.
Agatha Christie, can't be that obvious. So there's got to be a twist. So anyone that's most obvious is not the culprit.
Yeah. I have one more.
Yes.
And that's all of them are involved, like in the murder on the Orient Express. Everybody has killed this guy.
Everybody has killed the guy.
Yeah, they all had some reason.
I think Barasi is just sleeping. He is not dead, really. He's just sleeping.
Anybody else, or can I? Anybody who has a suggestion, or should I come out with the revelation?
Let's wait.
Let's keep
the revelation for the next session.
So 10 people have voted.
No, let's have the revelation now.
Let's see the
votes. Let's have the votes.
Where are you all voting, guys?
In the poll. The poll came up.
I have voted already, yeah.
Yeah, there are now 11 votes have come. 5 people can't vote who know the revelation. So that makes it around 15, 16 votes we have to get.
Yeah, let's give them time to vote. Let's give them a couple of minutes.
Okay, 12 votes.
I somehow seem to have lost the window. There was a window, right?
Yeah, it'll come back.
Can you put it back up in some way, or how does it?
Yanks, you got to put it back up.
What do you want to put on the screen?
The window with the vote.
Polls and quizzes. Got it.
The voting is on your WhatsApp. The voting is on WhatsApp. Go to the WhatsApp. Your WhatsApp group.
Oh,
got it.
That makes sense.
Yanks done?
No, two more. You want to wait or you want to close?
Yeah, we are in suspense. Give them time, a minute more.
Which is it in the admin or just the regular book club?
So if you're on the Zoom, Monty, you need to click on more or something, and you'll find a thing called quizzes.
I see the polls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was there before.
I think I did that already with the pop-up.
I didn't know. I did the pop-up, yeah.
Okay, 14 are in. So there's one more vote.
Ishan, have you voted?
Sorry?
14 votes have come in. So there's one more vote we are expecting.
I haven't voted.
Ishan, have you voted?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got it on the screen.
All right, let's see.
Okay, shall I announce the results?
Yeah.
Okay. Out of 15, 3 people think that Krishna is the murderer. 5 people think Professor Dumbledore. 4 people for Anne. And 3 people for Hariputtar.
Okay, so Dumbledore.
Close, but Dumbledore leads with 5 and Iron with 4. And other 2 are slightly behind by 3. So it is a fairly good suspense Anu created.
Teams are pretty evenly distributed.
Or it's pretty remote, the solution.
Okay. So I have the casting vote. Let me say, after reviewing the evidence, I agree with all of you who have voted for Dumbledore with 5 votes. I believe the killer is Professor Dumbledore.
Why?
Dumbledore.
Why?
You have to talk. Marilyn, your turn.
Wait.
Look at his beard. Come on.
Yeah.
Guys, we're back in the play. We're back in the play.
Detective Raina, preposterous. I had no reason to kill Bara.
On the contrary, Professor, you wanted that first edition desperately. Bara outbid you at Satbees recently, creating bad blood. But there's more. You mentioned Bara was enjoying his tea when you left him. Yet no one mentioned tea being served in the rare book room. Only you could have known about the tea, unless you brought it yourself. The poison used, as the medical examiner just confirmed, was extracted from taxine berries from the yew tree, something you discussed in detail during the book club's discussion of Christie's botanical poisons. Your expertise betrayed you.
You can't prove anything.
Can't I? We found the first edition book hidden in your briefcase. Professor, and your fingerprints on the teacup. You killed Barasi to steal the valuable book and settle your score.
He was ruining the rare book market with his vulgar wealth, outbidding genuine scholars and collectors. He didn't appreciate these treasures. They were just investments to him. I offered to buy the Christie first edition legitimately, but he laughed at me, said he'd buy it himself and flip it for profit. Some things are worth more than money, detective.
Even a human being, Professor?
I didn't mean, it was only meant to make him ill, to distract him while I took the book.
Yet another mystery, though there's no satisfaction in it, only justice for the victim. Thank you, my fellow detectives, for your careful attention. However, there's one more revelation, known only to me as the detective. Would you guys like to hear that also?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
So the missing Christie, should I continue, Anu?
We need to know about the love letter.
The missing Christie first edition found in the professor's briefcase, it's a forgery. The real first edition was replaced weeks ago by a mystery writer, Ian.
What? How dare you? Your publisher's records show you have not published any book that made a mark on the bestseller list. The letter Hari found wasn't a love letter at all. It was a blackmail note. Bara discovered your scheme to sell stolen first editions to keep up your extravagant lifestyle and threatened to expose you. He wasn't meeting the professor in the rare book room tonight. He was meeting you. The professor unwittingly did your dirty work by poisoning Bara, though for entirely different motives. 2 criminals, 1 victim, and a perfect Christie-esque twist. Well, detective,
Very
it
nice.
seems you've inherited Poirot's little gray cells. Yes, Bara discovered my forgery. I've been replacing these valuable books with forgeries and selling the original to keep myself afloat. Bara was going to ruin everything. Professor Dumbledore, it seems we both had good reasons. What a pity we couldn't have collaborated.
In the words of Christie herself in The Moving Finger, most crimes, you see, are so absurdly simple. I'm very impressed with the brain power of the book club because you identified both Dumbledore and Iron. That brings us to the end of the play.
That's wonderful. I'm just glad that we didn't kill
This
any
was
human
terrific.
beings. We killed Morrissey.
So,
That was so well
hey
done.
guys,
Anu.
absolutely
that was
amazing.
brilliant.
Wonderful.
Amazing,
Bravo.
Anu.
Bravo.
Amazing
Very
idea,
nice.
Anu. Wonderful.
Great
And
idea, great acting.
actors. My goodness, a great costume. Love the beard.
Anjali, we are going to make you Detective Raina permanently from now on for all mysteries.
What about making Iron the mystery writer? She was fantastic.
That's right.
मिलिंद दाढ़ी में कुछ काला था.
Good one.
That's your Santa Claus beard, Milind, huh? It looks like a Santa Claus beard.
Yeah, well, it is being sold as a Dumbledore beard in the shop
Oh, okay.
of Amazon.
Yeah, the beard was lovely. After I saw that, I thought I should have brought a magnifying glass or something as the. Anu, what a fabulous session.
Idea, yeah.
Great.
Fantastic.
It was great. It was
Absolutely.
very entertaining.
Very good. Very good.
Enjoyable.
And it was balanced so well. See, nobody could make an obvious guess about who had done it. So, very, very well written.
You should start writing your mysteries, Anu.
Yeah.
Abdul, this was all ChatGPT and Claude, okay?
That's what writers do anyway.
Doesn't matter. All my
the
students
drawing
use
that you have.
ChatGPT to write the papers nowadays.
The drawing was from ChatGPT and the text is from Claude.
But notice,
Very
if you look
nicely
carefully
done.
at the drawing, it is basically an image of the, the stunt man or the stunt woman in Only Murders in the Building, right?
Yes.
It's inspired by that. And if any of you have not yet watched Only Murders in the Building, strongly recommend you do.
What is it? A series?
It's
on
like
one of
it's a series, yeah.
On what, Netflix?
And
or
it's got
Amazon?
Steve Martin and
Steve Martin,
Selena
right? Yeah.
Gomez,
Oh,
and it's quite
Sounds
fun.
good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
No, it's amazing.
Good.
Wonderful show.
Well, wonderful session. And I think Kenny has to be credited with the most creative name for himself. I would have thought of Harry Potter from Harry Potter.
I thought he was playing on his golfing skills rather than his.
Potter. Are there any other? I never knew that there was such Agatha Christie movies. Are there movies or is it a serial or what?
No, there's tons of movies. There's Peter Ustinov, and there's Kenneth Branagh, and of course David Suchet, and yeah.
And
I
PBS
think,
has a whole series on them, both Miss Marple and Hercule Poirot.
Witness for the Prosecution was a movie too, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Marlene Dietrich.
Marlene Dietrich.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Famous movie.
Yeah. Murder on the Orient
Murder
Express.
on the
is
Orient
another-
Express, Murder on the Nile. That's more recent
Yeah,
one. Pretty good. Yeah.
Anjali, if you go to Extreme, Airtel Extreme, they have they have some, I don't know how many of them are covered. And they have seasons, one season, two seasons, three seasons.
And that other guys, I don't know how many of you have seen that play, The Mousetrap.
I have.
Yeah.
I believe that
With
was
acted in it. Monty,
I have.
Monty and Tanku acted in Mousetrap.
Yes, I was Tanku's sister in Mousetrap, and that's what it stayed for the rest of our lives, Tanku, right?
And
Going
apparently
to take
that's how
note of regret.
Sanjay and Monty met, right? Mousetrap.
Yes, yes, we did.
Wow.
Tanku,
Who's
you're
the mouse and
muted.
who's the trap?
Tanku, you're on mute.
Again on mute.
We can't
No,
hear
we
you.
can't
Who's
hear.
the
We can't
mouse
hear
and who's the
Tanku.
trap, Monty? In that the play,
Isn't
who's
it
the mouse and who's the trap?
Isn't it an obvious guess, Rama?
Of course.
Rama, it's good to
Can't
see
hear
you. Rama told me he was not going to be there, so it's a very pleasant surprise to see you here.
There is a 3-part serial in BBC on And There Was None. So if you have not watched it, watch it. It is very good. We are just watching it. It is very interesting. And Then There Was None.
And there were none.
Oh,
Yes.
then there was none.
Thank you very much. I'm feeling very sleepy today because Ishan and I watched Dabba Katal. Have any of you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen Dabba Cartel. Great
I've
fun.
seen Dabba
Pretty good, huh?
Great fun.
Pretty good.
Shabana Azmi does such a good job.
But the ending was
Terrific.
disappointing somehow.
I think they are planning on another
There's another
season. That's why they've
Yeah,
done
yeah.
it that way.
Yeah. There's another season coming up.
I bet
really.
there's another season coming.
You know,
So it's
Shabana
multiple
Azmi was in
episodes or
another
what?
movie.
And what is it on?
It's 6 or 7 episodes.
What
It's on
what
the
is it called?
drug syndicate in Mumbai.
But it's all run by women.
Women, run by
The
women.
thing about it is that it's a takeoff on the Dabba Walas,
Okay.
and it's set in Mumbai. All run by women. The Dabba Cartel.